I recently upgraded my chair. It was, to say the least, it was like a fairly stressful thing because you have very opinionated people on when you ask the question, which chair should I get for streaming? And even more questions from people that ask me, why does the chair matter? Why are you spending, X amount of dollars for a chair? And why do you have to have a special chair and not just one you can go get from Walmart or something cheap? Um, First off, if streaming is going to be something you're going to do and you want to do, whether it's a hobby or whether it's a job, you have to keep in mind that you are spending upwards of 20 hours a week doing this. So while sitting in a couch is fine, that's usually not your setup place to stream. It's usually in an office or something, wherever you can. You're going to be spending 20 hours in this thing. It's no different than wearing shoes. Why do you choose the right shoes? Some of them look good, that's fine. But you go for looking good, and comfort is very important for especially work. When you stream, you don't want to leave that night, get up off your chair, and your tailbone hurts, or you're really uncomfortable, or the chair is just super annoying to deal with, right? It's one less thing you got to worry about. So that gets me to my first point. My very first chair I got was a cheaper chair because I didn't know if I was going to stream a long time, but I knew I was going to stream long hours. And sitting in that chair, I want to make sure, one, it looks cool, which is important, but not as important. A lot of people get chairs because they look cool on camera. It's a bad idea. You want to make sure you go for right in between, just like shoes for a job. It's got to be comfortable. It has to be durable, and it's got to work. So my first chair, for example, was from a company called Homail, Homail. It was a cheaper chair, but it looked cool, and that was what I went for at the time, not understanding until I got my new one that I have now. Cheaper chairs are fine as far as looking. They're easy to assemble. They're made out of cheaper parts usually, but they work as far as getting started. The downfall, they are not comfortable. They're not made for every size. So I'm a bigger guy, and therefore a chair I want to sit in has to be larger. I don't want my armrest rubbing against me. I want a nice clean fit. I don't want to be sitting in a little tiny bottom area. And to use the old chair, after a while I got up and I would go to bed, and my tailbone would be killing me. And I kept asking myself, why? Okay, so I ended up going out. I bought a seat cushion, like a car seat cushion, and then on top of that, I went and bought a what's called a coccyx pillow. Basically, it's an angled pillow that has, for your tailbone, it has an area where there's no cushion, and that is to help alleviate pressure on your tailbone. But when you do this for 4 to 6 hours, sometimes longer, that adds up. It isn't just something you're going to sit down and do something, leave. It's just like work. If you're going to sit in a chair all day, it better be a good chair. It better have things. So I guess my second point, why I spent the money. Now, I went through a lot of research on my own, looking up different chairs. And through all of it, I got multiple things. Number one, there are great chairs office, and there are great chairs for gaming chairs. Gaming chairs traditionally aren't as comfortable as high-end office chairs. However, they do look better usually. And for the most part, they have that appeal because you usually see the brand name and you usually come into a stream, and while you are watching for the streamer, you notice the chair. It just happens. They usually have bright colors. They usually really stand out, and they help with contrast to your background too. I mean, it separates you. When you have a big red headrest behind you, you're looking, your focal point then comes to the streamer. I personally went with these guys right here. Let me show you. So this is the Secret Lab Titan. Now, one thing I loved about them is that they are in the U.S., and you can't go wrong there. They're made out of very high quality things. Materials, and trust me, I did a bunch of research on it. I don't like to buy anything, especially if it's expensive, that I can't use, and I don't want to spend that money and still have issues, or have to use cushions in place of it, because then I'm just spending more money. And after using it for this little while, I understand now about it, right? So they have two different versions. They have more than two, but the two that I looked at were the Omega and the Titan. And while both of them would have technically worked, I'm glad I looked more in depth. If you're buying a new chair, you need to look at the weight and the height recommendation. More weight than height, because if I did get the Omega, it has a max capacity, I think, recommended at 175 pounds. So for me, not going to work. If you're smaller, totally fine. But It wouldn't have worked for me. It would have been tighter, a little closer fit, and it just wouldn't have worked the same. And I'm very glad I researched it. If you actually go on Secretlab's website, it actually lets you put in your height and weight, and it brings you right to the chair that'll work for you. So you don't have to worry about going, oh, do I have to look at the weight limits and then go back and forth. Now, why is the larger one different? And even if you are smaller, you can still get the larger chair. Some of the things you're going to notice are the armrests are a little more spread out. The cushion below you is wider, so you have a lot more room rather than it being snug. And I was right on the edge of it as far as like I could have gotten the other one, but it would not have worked. Trust me, this one fits beautifully. I leave my office every night after doing however long, 4 to 7 hour streams, and I feel great. And on top of that, it's just comfortable. And one of the things I noticed that's huge is when I sat in my old chair, it was rickety, it was loud. When I rolled this just after getting it set up, this thing was golden. It didn't make a sound. When you sit in it, it just feels solid. It doesn't move. It's got a ton of cool features. The installation was phenomenal. When you open the box originally, it actually has a paper on top that says thank you, but when you flip it over, there's your instructions on a huge colored, it's not even paper, it's like a plastic sheet kind of thing. And it was easy to set up. It was phenomenal. I can't say enough. It has a ton of cool features. The armrests can actually go, let's see if I can do it this way, in and out, forward and back, up and down, and then you can even angle them. So if you're going to type, if you're going to use a keyboard, which I just recently converted over to PC, I can actually ergonomically use the rest to rest my arms while I type and while I use my mouse. Beyond that, they have a velour cushion. Now, my old one, I never thought about leaning back ever. But in this one, because it's so sturdy, I can just relax, sit back, and I'm very comfortable at all times. Like it is a pleasure to sit in this chair now, and that was not the case with my old one. My old one, I would sit down, it would be rickety, it would move, it's kind of a nightmare. But I didn't realize it until I had this one. The parts weren't the same. These are very high quality parts. When you lift up the piece that goes in the bottom that that allows you to control tension control and such, it is phenomenal. It has a lumbar support toggle or a dial right here, which I can change if I need to. It fits me very well, and it's very easy to set up. So I would highly recommend it if you're looking at things. While you may not get this one specifically, just be smart about choosing the chair that fits right for you. And even more important, while it's not discussed all the time openly, because a lot of people don't like discussing it, if you're going to get a chair, make sure you have a good return policy. Because if you're going to get it and you got 3 days or 7 days, you may not know in that time. Or if it's your days off from streaming or doing your stuff, you may not even get a chance to try it out in a true setting. And just sitting in it and then leaving is not an option. You want to be able to sit in it, do what you got to do, try your games, streaming, whatever it is, sit in it and truly use it. And then if you have to, bring it back. And if not, you're good. But that will always cover you in the meantime, because chairs are very hard. While this chair works for me and I love it and I would recommend it to everyone that I've known, it may not be for someone else, whether it's price, whether it's how it feels, whether it's a color. There's a million things. Just make sure you do your research. If you do have any questions, feel free to hop in our Discord and ask us. We have a bunch of great resources for streaming. And then in the future, like I said, I'm going to make more of these videos to just give you some insight on little things and break it down into little sections rather than just one big, here's how you should stream. So make sure, tune in to us on Mixer Wednesday through Saturday, starting at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, starting on Sunday, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. So until next time, we'll have our next video hopefully shortly. Stay adorable, and we will see you later.